With that said, I want to invite now our third speaker who is from Pakistan, Dr. Maria Sultan, who is the Director General for South Asia Strategic Stability Institute in Islamabad. And I welcome you, Dr. Sultan, and you are welcome to begin your remarks. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for giving me this opportunity. I would also like to echo with my colleagues in thanking not only the Embassy of Pakistan for taking this initiative, but also our partners in Pakistan, especially the Board of Investment, for providing us this opportunity to come together on an issue which has, of course, not only concerns global security debates, but also global economic debates. Well, I would just keep my comments pretty focused in terms of what Pakistan, what Belt and Road Initiative actually means for Pakistan, and most importantly, what is the strategic significance of this economic transformation with regards to global supply chains. This is no doubt that it's almost been 9 years since President Xi Jinping proposed the Belt and Road Initiative. It was considered, according to him, what he stressed, that it is initiated by China for jointly building a new world, a new global transformation. And in this global transformation, they believe that the principle for common development through consultation, joint efforts, and shared benefits would perhaps become an achievable reality. So in one way, it is almost as if we are going through a phase where we are not only witnessing what the world had witnessed after the Marshall Plan, but in reality also and altogether, perhaps one of the singular biggest outreach, which consists more than 91 countries from land routes and almost 30 plus countries when it comes to the sea routes. And in these sea routes, there is, of course, certain countries which will be playing key role. And in this key role, Pakistan is one of the important countries. So if you would allow me, I'm just going to use a very small presentation, Stephen, and hopefully run it through so that we can, connect on that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I don't know if you can see the presentation.
Yeah, we can see.
Well, okay. As you can all see, this is a map of the BRI, which is perhaps seen and almost known by almost everyone. But when we look at this map, most of the people think that this is basically about road, railway, and other connectivity, which is going to link the countries together. But it's not just road, railway connectivity, but it is also in terms of a global economic transformation. So if you look at the tail end, if you look at the industrial zones, it's not just connecting to China, but it's in reality connecting to China's industrial zones. So it starts from Beijing, Tianjin, Lianjing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, and then it leads up to 7 critical countries. As you can see, the other end of the Belt and Road Initiative from the BRI, from the land route point of view, is connecting to 7 major ports. That is the Helsinki port, St. Petersburg, Rotterdam, Calais, and Paris. Then we have Iran, the Khomeini port, and I think what has happened between China and Iran recently in terms of economic cooperation under the CPEC and under the Belt and Road Initiative is quite clear. And then last but not least is the focus for our attention has been Gwadar port. And also linking to that is the importance of Karachi port in terms of the overall initiatives. So if we look at this Belt and Road Initiative and we look at these communications, what we see is that at one end we have got China's industrial zones. On the other hand, we have got the global ports. And then also it is a reverse connectivity in terms of not only opening up the markets, but also accessing these markets from that point of view. Now, if we just look closely at these industrial zones, we see that each one of these industrial zones has got certain specialization. So this means that in future, if we go back and we look at the countries where it's targeted, we will be seeing that some of these countries would be looking at some of this industry from these industrial zones to be shifted ahead. So wherever there is going to be competitive advantage, some of these companies would be shifting ahead. I think Henry had talked about Ethiopia, he's talked about Pakistan. One of the key reasons for this is also in terms of China's greater plan has been in terms of how important these global ports will be playing. The bigger question has been for all people has been why Pakistan has been given so much focus, and what is the importance of Pakistan? Is it just because it's the shortest route? Is it because that we have got one of the bigger ports, or is there is something else to it? I think one of the major reasons which has come forward has been the importance of the global containers and how the containers have shifted and how global ports have played a major role. In this context, from the 1970s, we see Europe and we see United States and we see some
Hello?
part of 80s, what we see is that this port connection sees the emergence of mega ports. We see Rotterdam emerging, we see in China, Shanghai, and we also see New York also developing. But at the same time, we also see something very interesting, and that is Singapore developing as a mega port. In the 1990s, this seems to have further sharpened in terms of global supply chain, which ports could be more efficient, and the mega ports, we see these major ports emerging as key players. So while other ports did play a major role, we see these mega ports dominated. As of now, in 2006 data, this is the global trade volume, which is passing from the Indo-Pacific region, in particular from Pakistan. We can see that there has been almost a 293% increase in global trade volume, which is now passing. So there seems to be a major shift of trade, which was first transatlantic. Now it seems to be more Euro-Asian. So as Europe and Asia will be coming together, it would also be linking together not only the northern region, but it would be pretty much linking together Asia, Africa, and Europe together. So this means the shared destiny for the future will be between these three regions. And wherever these three regions will move, will be pretty much the defining element in terms of how global trade volume and global economic transformation would be led by which partner. Now, this brings us to the significance of the ports. As you can see, these are the 13 major ports. And as you can see that Singapore is 471 million tons. That is almost 30 years of investment in Singapore as a global trade shipping point. And Gawada port is 400 million tons unused as of yet. And if it is going to be optimized, it is going to be almost 800 million tons. And this would, of course, bring us in close competitive advantage and also in certain competition between some of our partners. That means some countries from, say, Dubai, maybe others would be playing a major role. And as we can see here in Dubai also, we have got Oman and Duqm almost competing for the same shared presence. So it is in the significance of this and the future of the world trade, depending upon who will dominate the new global commons, that is going to be shaping this. That means how the outer space common will be shared, how the atmosphere common will be developed, what would be the maritime commons, and now with e-commerce becoming a major factor, what will be the factors for that. This is an actual visualization of the transport clusters, which is at the moment in movement. And as you can see that Europe seems to be at the heart of it. Then we see United States and North America playing a major role. And then, of course, China or Shanghai being a major role. Here, we also see Dubai emerging as a route. And this route indicated also how the global trade flows were supplemented in terms of global economic financial flows, almost showing the same pattern. What is missing over here is not in terms of how the global trade has happened over the last 30 years or more in this direction, but it is the missing factor from Central Asia to Pakistan, from Pakistan like Asia, South Asia, and from South Asia to Africa, where the youth population bias is and where these other factors will be. This is the cyberspace common. And as you can see here also, most of the connectivity is from the sea lines of communication. And in these sea lines of communication also, there are major entry points. Pakistan being one, Iran being second, third is, of course, India. Fourth is Ethiopia. And then we have got Egypt, and then we have got Sudan. And we see that parallel initiatives are being launched in Egypt and Sudan by both United States and China. And then we also see Djibouti emerging as a major point. So what we're looking at is pretty much the belt from Gwadar onwards till the Suez Canal, which is going to be very important in terms of how global trade flows will be following. This is the cyber common. This is the new digital Silk Route, which is being proposed. And as you can see, it goes from Gwadar to Djibouti and from Djibouti to Mombasa on one route. And on the other route, it is going from Pakistan to Djibouti and from Djibouti to Egypt. And the significance of this is not that it's just focused from Pakistan to Djibouti and from Djibouti to Egypt, but the significance is that it then further on connects to Europe. So Europe will be the key connecting point for future in terms of bringing the regions together and bringing the high industry trade together and then linking it to the global supply chain and establishing that pyramid. This is the Maritime Common, which is indicating the same pattern. And this is actually the oil framework. And as you can see, it is indicating that at this moment, almost 90% of the world oil is passing right in front of Pakistan, 25.5%. And if you see that with regards to United States is almost 2.4% and almost 19.9%, which is passing through the Straits of Malacca. So this is the actual oil which is passing. So this means that if Sweden, Finland, and these countries which have been leaders in mobile technology, as well as also in oil and natural minerals and others, this can be a potential point, not only for entry, but also indicating that how actually the economic transformation is going. So the CPEC component of it, or the land component of connecting to the sea highways, is perhaps the missing chain which China is right now building, and which of course the government of Pakistan, as well as other countries which are key in this economic collaboration, will be facilitating. And once this facilitation is complete, we would be looking at altogether a different picture. Of course, since I come from a security background, it would be not, I would be failing if I do not highlight what have been the impediments which have been created. Some impediments had been, of course, created in terms of in the sea with regards to the anti-piracy operations emerging out of Somalia, and as what's interesting is that in this economic transformation, the partnerships have been very clear. The partnerships have been for United States, it has been pretty much India. So that is where most of the economic investments have gone. Around $60 billion plus dollars have been invested between India and United States. And after the signature of BICA, we're looking at almost a transfer of US IT industry and other industry shifting to India. Then we see Dubai, we see Egypt, which had been the US economic partner, and Pakistan had been also part of the US supply chain, but we were based on the quota system. The difference is that the Chinese, which they're trying to project and which we think is going to be perhaps the gateway, is that they want these joint ventures. And once these joint ventures come in, and if we are able to bring in a strong legislation and we are able to kind of seize on the opportunity of comparative advantage, then the new route would indicate that there would be a new economic configuration emerging. And in that new economic configuration, it would be key, which are going to be the countries which are going to be the key access points. As you can see from this map also, it is Pakistan. Djibouti plays an important role. Then, of course, it is Egypt, and then it goes on to Italy, and then further down to various European partners. Now, this was the anti-piracy operations which had happened before. And this is what Pakistan has done after CPEC. That means clearing these areas from this and reducing the high-risk areas. Now, of course, this brings us to the much debated issue of China-US power competition going on in the region. What has been interesting has been that the movement of the fleets. What we have seen is that the 6th Fleet of the United States has moved down further down. At the choke points, we have seen the 5th Fleet move out from Bahrain and got down to Duqm. The 7th Fleet also coming down and covering the opening and exit points of the Straits of Malacca. So the bigger question has been why? The question has been is based on this data, although this is a little dated, but this shows that the economic trade flows are indicating that there is almost a near equal competition between Trans-Pacific trade and Euro-Asian trade. And what's interesting is the transatlantic trade is coming down. What is missing over here is a trade phenomena between the North and South, between Central Asia, Russia, Asia, and Africa. So this means whoever is going to capture this market, whoever is going to have access to this, will be perhaps will be the part of this new framework. This is the CPEC route once again. So if you look at it, then it allows us to connect to these points, and not only to these points, but also to give an understanding that this economic comparative advantage will be based in terms of efficiency gains. So this is the transport efficiency gains. If from Europe to Eastern China, if they come through Gawada, it's almost 65%, almost 85%. If they come from Gulf to Eastern China, it's 98%. And from Europe to Western China, almost 70%. And from Gulf to Western China, almost 58%, if it is coming through Gawada. So this means that Pakistan would not only add a lot in terms of this comparative advantage in terms of economic activity, but it will also give us economic boost assumptions, which is that if only 10% of the Chinese trade passes through Pakistan, through CPEC, we're talking about a transport volume of approximately $1 trillion. This means that the GDP would be likely to increase from 1.5% to almost 2.5%. Yes, nobody had predicted the COVID situation, but even then, the fact remains that the opportunity remains very squarely with countries with high population density, and also an annual trade expectation, which is likely to increase to 40%, creating multiple jobs. I'm just going to run through this. Of course, the biggest problem here has been how to attract investors, how to ensure that the FDI remains stable. The presentations what we've heard this morning have tried to show the government of Pakistan's commitment towards it. But what's interesting is it's not just the commitment of government of Pakistan. It is the actual economic gains which anybody will gain as a result of investing in this region. So in short, I'll just like to conclude on the fact that although the demographic diversity is likely to impact on a positive trajectory, the fact that Pakistan has got a high youth factor will increase. These have been some of the early harvest projects which Pakistan has. This is the last project at hand, which is the rail connectivity. Once this is done, we are talking about already completed projects in fiber optics, in oil pipelines, and of course, building up of the port facilities. So in short, in terms of actual economic activities, the special economic zones, we've already activated 2 of them. These are the potential 57 SE zones which have been put on the plate. But this shows that just not even going up, even if there's a focus is on the south or in the seas, the potential for cooperation is quite high. So this is, I'm just going to conclude in 1 minute. So these are the next and 11
can somebody
which has been given by World Bank, and it stays in places Pakistan level. Although despite all of this, what we see and what we understand is that the future of global economic transformation will pass through key countries, and in these key countries, Pakistan will be playing a very important role. But this connectivity would not be possible if we are unable to connect with some of our European partners who have been our economic partners earlier, and who can capitalize on this incentive. This would also mean that the global economic focus for the future will move away from transatlantic, will move away from that and come down to Euro-Asian connectivity. These are some of the sectors which can be potential cooperation between regions and between countries which are invested in the Belt and Road Initiative, and hopefully will become gateways for economic and global transformation. I thank you all for your patience, and I hope that if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them during the question answer session, or if there's something raised during the chat.